So we all know Dauntless. It's a free-to-play action online RPG in which you kill behemoths, and you improve your weapons and armour. But I feel like there's more to this game than many people give it credit for. Through countless patches and updates, and what seems like really enthusiastic developers, what was once a fairly linear game has quickly become a really in-depth experience, and as you might have guessed, the purpose of this series is to explore, investigate and expand upon all this background information. So without further ado, let's get started. A long time ago, an event known as the Upheaval shattered the known world, scattering the broken shards of the land across the sky. This network of orbiting fragments became the New World, known as the Shattered Isles. Not a great deal is currently understood about the Upheaval. In-game references, as well as online theories, seem to have an idea of what might have happened. For example, there's a theory that perhaps the world used to be like ours, and then suddenly the ether had appeared and tore the world apart. Then there's the other theory, that humanity used to live on a planet filled with ether, but then a huge surge of energy burst out for an unknown reason, causing the planet to break into shattered isles. But really very little is known about the world before the Upheaval, or the Upheaval itself. In the Valamir lore section, there is mention that there's still ruins of pre-Upheaval cities, but other than that, most of it's just speculation. So the world was shattered, and it became a network of orbiting fragments. But humanity prevailed, and the Shattered Isles became home to multiple human settlements, developed in relative isolation, but linked together in recent years by the invention of the modern airship. The airship became the more new, reliable method of travel, and surpassed the primitive dirigibles and gliders that had previously been used. But of course it wouldn't be much of a game if we didn't have the great threat of the behemoths, which populate the Scattered Isles, threatening any form of civilized society. However, despite this threat, an inspiring generation of adventurers, explorers, scientists and slayers begun to venture further from the familiar settlements. And that's where our very familiar city of Ramsgate was first established on the edge of the frontier. So to better understand where Ramsgate stands in this broken world, it's better to have a greater understanding of the Shattered Isles as a whole, by breaking it up into different zones. So on the more hospitable islands, we have of course the more established cities, such as Ostia or St. Aveline. Ostia is home to many of the characters and NPCs in Dauntless, such as Wills Borman or Janik Zay. It was an industrial powerhouse of the Shattered Isles, and it shows in all of the weapons and vessels and architecture that were produced here. We see an example of the durability of this ancient tech, with the discovery of the Ostian harpoon found in New Ramsgate. A harpoon which was likely left behind by one of the earliest ironclad fleets on their way to pacify the then more chaotic Shattered Isles. We also know that much of the city was destroyed as a Koshai behemoth wreaked havoc. So at this stage, not much is known about the present state of Ostia, and similarly with St. Aveline, which is likely the most established of cities in the Shattered Isles. With not a lot known about St. Aveline as well, we do know that a lot of NPCs are from this city, and a lot of the culture and events spread to Ramsgate from it. So of course, this brings us to Ramsgate, the city of slayers. Anyone looking to explore the frontier will eventually find themselves in Ramsgate. Its position at the edge of the civilized world makes it an ideal launching point for slayer expeditions and numerous other explorations. As a frontier town, Ramsgate doesn't offer the same luxuries of the more established cities, but its pioneering nature has attracted some of the world's most skilled smiths, scholars and fighters. But of course I'm referring to Ramsgate in past tense, because in a cataclysmic event where umbral deeps became unstable and were going to explode, all of Ramsgate was destroyed. But not before the players of Slayers took part in a community event which ensured the successful activation of Archon Drew's portal driver, which saved the majority of the population of Ramsgate.
A brave soul might say, well, it's not the end of the world, but unless we can pull off a miracle, it will be. It wasn't easy to bring the relic back to our city, but now I can't take my eyes off of it. The portal driver. If I'm right, it's our only chance. Well, here goes nothing. Cat has to remind me to open my eyes when it's over. We've made it to our new home. And lost the old one for good. Rebuilding this city won't happen overnight, but here, Ramsgate won't just live. It will thrive. We've survived the darkness. That brave soul was right. This isn't the end of the world. It's the beginning of a new one.
So yes, earlier this year in 2020, we were introduced to a brand new and improved Ramsgate, now known as New Ramsgate. And for players like me who were on a bit of a hiatus from the game, and returned after a while, were pleasantly surprised to find out they had a nice new hub to explore in between hunts. New Ramsgate now features a more vertical design, and includes ether jets to quickly move around the sprawling city. The overall theme is far more impactful in presenting a city in a fantasy world, with a central plaza, the Ramsgate Racing, the enormous bazaar shop, a smithy, the guns, fists and buffs, and the Ramsgate outskirts. So looking out beyond Ramsgate, and beyond the edge of civilization, we have the first zone, which is known as the Sheltered Frontier. Made up of broken islands, on Ramsgate's figurative doorstep, the Sheltered Frontier is common for slayers, especially recruits in training, where they keep them free of mature full-size behemoths. However, smaller behemoths can still be found in really large numbers. It's here you'll find the Lesser Embermane, the Lesser Gnasher and the Lesser Shrike. The environment is mild, and it offers a variety of ingredients, such as the Dashleaf, Skybloom, Rothwort, and Iron Thistle. Heading deeper to the open skies, we'll come across Zone 2, which is known as the Monstrous Verge. The Monstrous Verge is an archipelago further out in the Shattered Isles, and it's here you'll find islands such as Ulrich's Refuge, which is named after Ramsgate founder Ulrich Maas, as well as the Iron Falls. On these islands you'll find behemoths such as the Gnasher, the Shrike, the Quillshot, the Skarn, and gatherables such as the Deathleaf, the Iron Thistle, the Skybloom, and Worthwort. Getting a bit more risky now, and heading further out to the third zone, we have the Yonder Keys. This area of the Shattered Isles is home to elemental behemoths such as the Charog, the Quillshot and the Shrike. It's a region where many Ramsgate residents hoped to establish farmlands and mining camps, but were inevitably disrupted by the elementally changed islands from the upper reaches and the chilling depths where the behemoths fed on the ether. More behemoths such as the Drask, the Embermane, the Skarn, the Scrave all call this place home, and you'll find more gatherables which can be obtained such as the Heart Lily, the Omnistone and the Dashleaf. Next up we have Zone 4, the Uncharted Reaches. Named the Uncharted Reaches, basically just due to the fact that it's the furthest reaches of the Shattered Isles. These islands are often exposed to wildly chaotic etheric storms and strange new behemoths. Farslayers can often be found here taking part in long, carefully planned hunts. They include the islands of Frostmarch, Revelation Rock, and Underworld. where you would find behemoths such as the Nezaga, the Halion, the Karabak, the Pangar, and the Stormclaw. You'll also find gatherables such as the Phoenix Opal. And the final zone, Zone 5, we have the Maelstrom. The Maelstrom, as you would suspect, is one of the most dangerous places in the Shattered Isles, where all of the most powerful behemoths are found. Arcan Drew describes it as such. The Maelstrom continues to elude thorough study. Only one island in the entire formation, if such a word can even be applied here, seems to exist in a stable position. The others drift in long, arraying paths, disappearing into the central storm for weeks or even months at a time. It has been marked as the boundary between relatively safe known skies and the destructive atmospheric chaos that exists beyond. It includes islands such as Marigold A, Cerulean 5, Sovereign's Throne, and Viaduct Drift, which are home to the most powerful behemoths. For example, the Dead-Eyed Quillshot, the Bloodfire Embermane, the Frostback Pangar, the Ragetail Gnasher, the Koshai, the Shockjaw Nezaga, the Moonreaver, the Shrike, and of course, the Shroud. As the skies of the Shattered Isles shift, so do the islands, moving and orbiting around each other. Each of the islands orbiting around the core, much like how the planets orbit around the Sun in our own solar system. And like our own planet, we can see that the Shattered Isles progresses through the seasons as the year goes on. We get an example of this with the Dark Harvest event. As foreboding autumn takes hold of the Shattered Isles, so do the unseen who descend upon Ramsgate. This shadowy group deal in the dark arts, and with the cycle of the seasons, seem to grow more powerful in autumn. They are known to conjure portals, as well as construct effigies of the umbral behemoth, the Shroud, which is obviously very similar to satanic worship in Celtic mythology around Halloween. And we can see the haunting influence of the Dark Harvest in and around New Ramsgate, as well as the Shattered Isles as a whole. Another example of the seasons of the Shattered Isles is frostfall. The sudden infusion of frost in the Shattered Isles influences the behaviour of the behemoths, especially those that feed on the cold, such as Scraves or Pangars. These behemoths will seek more territory due to the chilly presence. But despite the greater threat from these behemoths, the people of Ramsgate meet and raise spirits with social gathering. We have the following reference from Gaius Copperwheel. With a few notable exceptions, all of the Shattered Islands pass through a part of the sky which is infused with frost ether. And for a few weeks, all of the islands, not just the Ram, and not just the chain islands of Ostia, no, all of the islands drop in elevation and brush against the cold reaches of the sky below. It's something like what the ancients called it, the winter, I believe, but considerably shorter. The annual frostfall hunts are a busy time of year for slayers, but most enjoy the competition. The ordinary citizens tend to stay huddled in their homes, sharing large meals and exchanging gifts and celebrating with friends. They enjoy steaming glasses of Blaze Kiss seasonal drinks to help keep the cold away. And of course the youngsters and the young of heart await the arrival of Silver Nicola, a legendary figure who spreads gifts and cheer from her magical airship to all the Shattered Isles on the coldest night of frostfall. So we've explored the background, the structure, some of the locations, and even the seasons of the Shattered Isles. With the islands of Dauntless ever changing, a place that was once a short airship journey away could disappear forever. With each passing day comes the possibility of new discoveries, wilderness never touched by man, precious resources, and unimaginable adventure. And that's where I'll end this video. With Dauntless constantly changing and expanding, it's really exciting to do some further research on this little game. I do plan on continuing this series, delving deeper into certain behemoths, character studies, and future updates, some of which I'm really excited for. But until next time, see ya.